Hello friends, welcome to another Ask a Bhante. So going over an old question today from those of you in the Maggasekha community, you know Reed very well. Reed, our former retired mod who helped our online community very well for many years. So he asked the question, why are Metta and Karuna, loving kindness and compassion for others, given such importance on the path? Well, this is a pretty simple, easy question. Why? Because because doing these things, having goodwill for all beings, allows us to go against our anger, hatred, ill will. And this is what Metta is for. Metta is for we have within us greed, hatred, and delusion. We have within us like and dislike, us and them, in-group preference. And really practicing developing a mind that has a baseline of goodwill for all beings. What does this mean? If you really are practicing Metta to the point that you have a baseline of goodwill for all beings, no matter who you meet, whatever stranger you meet, you start out giving them the benefit of the doubt. Right? You start out with goodwill towards them. That's the baseline. Starting out that way. And then they might be harmful to you and you have to step back and defend yourself or things like that. Or they not, but it's setting up a mind state so that you have continuous goodwill. That you counteract the negativity in your mind. Because your mind is, at least the human brain, if you want to call it, the mind, whatever, has evolved to see threats, right? This human being, this creature, Homo sapien, right? That's how it survived when there were lions that could just eat your whole head and, things like that, right? You survive. So you have a kind of almost a natural hesitancy, right? So for our family members, or maybe from the people of our tribe, we have this baseline of benefit of the doubt, goodwill. But everything outside can be dangerous. Everything outside could kill you. These days, not so much, but still, you never know. So we feed this mind state of aversion, of ill will. And then maybe, we meet a stranger, but then over time they become a friend, and then we have goodwill towards them. And so Metta breaks through all these barriers. Metta is the way that allows us to train the mind to eradicate every little nook and cranny of ill will in our mind. It's like the Metta police, the Metta patrol is going through the mind, shining flashlights, and say, oh, look in that corner. There's a little bit of ill will. Let's take it out. We'll replace it with goodwill. Right? So we're replacing every little nook and cranny of ill will in our mind with goodwill. That's a letting go. Right? That's the ability for us to let go of our agitation, anger, aversion, hatred, resentment, jealousy, all of these things. And Karuna, compassion, this is important. We should understand the difference between mundane compassion and transcendent compassion. what we would normally think of as the Buddha's compassion. Mundane compassion is like the mother's compassion to a child, right? And it's like, oh, I have such compassion for them, I want to protect them, etc., etc., etc. But it's very easy for us to have compassion for people who are in our in-group. Not so easy to have compassion for people who are not in our in-group. That's mundane compassion. It's conditional. It's not actually beneficial to the goal. Mundane compassion is detrimental to the goal in many ways. The goal being awakening, right? The path. When you see in the suttas where the Buddha says how to practice compassion, it's the same exact way to practice metta. Okay? One abides with a mind full of compassion, pervading the all-encompassing world, the first quarter, likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, with a mind of compassion, right? There's no individual there. Compassion for all beings. What is that? That's also a benefit of the doubt. That's starting. So you're starting, if you are living your life, that you start out where the baseline is goodwill and compassion. Compassion in what way? What is compassion in terms of transcendent compassion? If you understand, right, you follow the path to the point where you really understand that we are all siblings in suffering. We're all stuck in this hellhole, this hellish travesty called samsara, the samsaric state. We're all stuck in this. This is hellish. I don't wish this on my worst enemy, but we're all stuck in it. I'm getting the heck out of this place if it's the last thing I ever do. And when you have that mindset, you say, oh yeah, this is, everybody else is suffering like that as well. Right? It's a transcendent. So this way, when you have that transcendent compassion, nobody's exempt from that compassion. It's not an emotional, mundane, conditional compassion. Right? This is very different. Transcendent compassion. This is the compassion that the Buddha encourages us. This is the compassion that develops on the path. Transcendent compassion that sees beyond conditions. It's not conditional. These are beings stuck in samsara, just like me. And when you get to that point, then you get to, whoever it is, Hitler, Mother Teresa, Genghis Khan, Martin Luther King, whoever, whatever it is, whoever, goods, bads, whatever, it doesn't matter. You have compassion for all beings because we're all stuck in samsara. We're all stuck in this cycle of being born, growing old, growing sick, losing everybody we love, suffering, dying, being born. So the whole cycle over and over and over again. And again, having that mentality allows you to let go. Let go of anger, ill will, agitation. You start with that baseline of goodwill and compassion. You don't even know them. You've never even met the person. But the baseline is goodwill and compassion. That's your baseline for everybody. That's the power of this path. That's why it is part of the path. That's why the Buddha talks about metta, a good number of times. That's why the Buddha says, stuff like greater than giving 500 barrels of food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner is practicing metta for the length of a finger snap, right? It's because of how powerful it is. It's because if your mind is full of metta and you're protecting it like a mother protects her own child, like, you want your mind to always be full of metta. and so ill will and aversion are coming up, and you're protecting your metta, your good, your compassion. No ill will. Right? You want to protect it, build it up, abide in it, so that you're always in it. And then this way, you will always have that. You will always have that baseline of goodwill and compassion for anybody you meet. Anybody. It's very easy to have compassion for people who we think are oppressed, and then we revel in our justified, righteous anger against the oppressors, and we attack them and things like that. That's not actual compassion. That's not compassion. That's not metta. That's the way of the world. Actual metta and actual transcendent compassion are not the ways of the world. They go against the ways of the world. As does the whole practice. This is why the Buddha teaches these things. And these are also things that naturally arise with wisdom. When you start to see things as they are, it just makes so much more sense to start with that baseline of goodwill and compassion for all beings. That baseline of benefit of the doubt for all beings, anybody you meet. It makes them just... It's stupid to not be that way. It gets to the point, it's like, well, why would I not be this way? Every once in a while you might be grumpy or whatever, and the ill will might win out for a short time. But if you've practiced long enough and sincere enough, it's only a short time. You go back to that baseline of goodwill and compassion for all beings, right? Non-judgment. Sometimes you have to judge. But if you have that baseline of goodwill, compassion, of goodwill, compassion, benefit of the doubt, then you're not prejudging. Right? You don't know this person. You don't know who these people are. And even if they have done bad things, they're still siblings in suffering just like me. They might need to go to jail. They might need to, experience the fruits of their karma. But that doesn't mean I have to have ill will towards them. Nah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Especially for my own mind, it's not worth it. So these things allow us to transcend. Right? Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha, all four of the Brahma Viharas allow us to transcend the normal, mundane mind. Right? To become better. The Sapurisa, the great person. As opposed to the Pugala, right? Pugala compassion. Pugala goodwill. Pugala mudita, appreciative joy. This means that we only have these things for people who we like. Not for the people who we don't like. We can't become awakened that way. We can't completely eradicate and free our minds that way. So this is why these practices are there. We practice them, and also as we practice Satipatthana and Anapanasati, we also develop them deeper. Bhante Ji told me one time that until I see impermanence at a deeper, refined level, my metta will always be skin deep. So these are connected to our wisdom. You can try to practice metta all you want, but if you don't grow in wisdom, it's not really going to stick. It's not really going to be real strong metta. All right, friends, with that, wish you a very spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments below and I'll get to them as I can. I'm going to try to see if I can get through a lot of the older questions. People ask me questions from like a year ago or even maybe 2 years ago. So I'm going to try to see if I can get through some of these older ones. So friends, until next time.